What's up, peeps? At the good USA Alliance and anybody else who might ever come across this video. Um, for this video, I'm gonna be going over the troops, the different troop types, and what what will be the general trend troops you might see, and what certain troops might be good at, whereas where they might be good at all. So with with this in mind, with this in mind, keep in mind that your main troop mightn't work for certain things all the time, and sometimes you might need to just kind of switch your formations up and integrate certain troops, or maybe you just need to have a little less of a certain troop. So with that in mind, let me start off with infantry. Infantry in general is, in my opinion, mainly is a defensive unit. Attacking with infantry the isn't a bad idea, but in my opinion, if you're an infantry player, defense is the way to go. It's the easiest game to play with infantry. But in terms of if you have to attack with infantry, my suggestion is you mainly will be using the T13 infantry, which we'll get into later. But let me start off with the main infantry, the main regular infantry types. So with starting off with the regular infantry types, you have the T9 infantry. T9 infantry, not a bad unit. Mainly, obviously, it's a spear unit, so mainly it would be used for just calf killing in general. So low tier to high tier calf, well, mid tier to high tier calf, it would do good damage too. With the best skill, in my opinion, being a triple attack. A triple attack, well, not a triple attack, but a critical hit and its sweep. The critical hit and the sweep, in my opinion, is the best skill for it, and it is what is allowed to deal more side damage to calf. Now, obviously, I could be wrong, but it's just me. For T10 infantry, basically a main defensive unit. Your army when on defense of your castle. It is the best unit for defense in terms of budget defense, not high end spending defense. It's like a budget defense unit. So in this case, obviously the best skill is shield wall. Is reduced to receive damage by 10. Well, for my level at it, want to reduce the damage by 10% and have a 17% chance that damage received by all units is reduced by 5%, which is amazing when you have it on level 60. I believe is it max damage? Is it max level for its stats? And well, obviously our grid is amazing, and well, iron armor amazing as well, and well, shield. It just basically does reduce damage from archers, which is good, but I mean, archers not really that popular, so you wouldn't see a archer man trying to fight an infantryman in the first place. So now we're moving on to the Volkmen, which in my opinion is not a great unit because T9 actually better than the Volkman in terms of damage, but there's like a slight difference. For Volkmen, in my opinion, Volkmen is the second most used unit. The second unit that I should be using the most as an infantry player on defense. It best skill being Dragon in the Wind and Advanced Spike. Not too much difference from the T9. And then, well, you have the Savage Warlord or T12 infantry, the best defensive unit in the game. High spenders defense, I should say, because mainly you would see a high spender using T12 Savage Warlord. It best skill obviously being advanced shield, because it does the same thing as the T10 advanced shield skill, but it have a greater effect, so to say. And well, advanced grid, amazing as well. Moving on to T13 infantry, which is the best offensive unit in the game. The best offensive unit in the game at all time. I don't care what nobody say. If I could fight more and die if I want. But yes, the Paladin. The Paladin is the unit that basically kills everything, even if it being countered by that unit. It's also mainly a AoE damage dealer, so it's not, while it might not see it be dealing the most damage all the time, it certainly does help contribute to the highest damage dealers for infantry. But anyhow, it is the highest damage dealer for infantry. It is the best. It best skills in my opinion is trial, which inflicts a certain amount of damage to the target, and an additional several range units, which does completely eliminate the whole factor where you kind of had to be worried that your infantry would not deal damage to siege, and it would kind of lose against range siege. Well, different story for rams. Rams deal way more damage to infantry than catapults. Blessing is also a nice one. Increase the defense, also have a chance to reduce receive damage, which is nice. Which I should actually probably show. I should probably actually show the percentages on them, because percentage important. Why talk about that skill if it didn't have good percentage? Divine Authority just increase attack, which pikemen have high attack. But yeah, Blessing increase defense by 40% on Paladin units. Well, there's a description of a unit. That the description of a unit, and then when being attacked, have a 50% chance to reduce the damage by 40%. So basically, just the description for why they have the 40%. Don't know why they ever did that, however. And well, Trial Paladin puts all his holy power into the giant hammer, causing 42% damage to the target and an additional 3 range units. As a level up, I believe the amount of units that does deal damage to also does go up by 1, I believe. Can't remember too well. Sanction is just for Griffin Knights to deal damage to Griffin Knights, and well, is basically like the most amazing skill when countering Griffin Knights, which you would see that is Griffin Knights is probably the second best unit in the game. But yeah, moving on to T14 infantry, which in my opinion isn't really like an infantry that it isn't really like an infantry tier that you really needs to have, but if you have it, is obviously a plus. T14 infantry start off with Guardians of Armament. This being basically the second best defensive unit in the game. Yes, it have way better stats than T12, but it more expensive than T12. So you wouldn't wanna keep using Guardians of Armament every fight. Is not a unit that you'd want to use every fight, because it would be very costly when fighting with this unit. The best skill, obviously, being Eye for an Eye. That is reduce their attack, but also reduce the enemy's attack, which Guardians of Armament attack, as you see up in the corner, they isn't really even great in the first place, so it doesn't really matter if the attack reduced by a couple 10 stats again. And well, Inventory Awaken, just basically increase the HP for every 10k Guardians of Armament, the HP and the damage reduction. And it will deal damage it'll deal more damage to units 4 levels below them, which basically mean if it's level 10 and below, it will decimate that unit sometimes. But yeah, moving is basically the unit that has all defensive stats, that basically just have that all that defense on them, so they basically just is like the perfect defensive unit. Moving on to T14 Dark Infantry, the pikemen obviously. AKA the AKA what? AKA what it should not been, what it should have been is what it was not. It not as good as the Paladin, in my opinion. It actually worse than the Paladin, and with the Evil Judgment skill, it quite literally makes no sense to use them in the first place, unless if you really just want to reduce a person's stats. But the Evil Judgment skill, which all T14 Dark have, do keep in mind, it will reduce if the number of enemy soldiers is more than 50% of the number of marching troops, which means that if you are attacking a castle and the enemy units is 50% higher than your unit, it will reduce the attack and defense of the enemy by a certain percentage depending on how much Dark Legion they will marching with, but it will also directly kill the Eternal Night Legion units if they get wounded, a percentage of them anyway. Which I mean, you lose them. It don't really matter much if you lose them, because on a whole you wouldn't want to use plenty of them. A perfect amount for each match is probably like 5k of them. But yeah, in my opinion, the best skills is Blood Strike, which increase self-attack power when hitting the enemy. There's a certain chance to make the enemy fall into blood state, increasing the damage that they receive, which basically does just increase the damage the enemy will take from all units, including the Woodbreaker Executioner. As for other skills, it's not really all that great, because the Woodbreaker Executioner is more of a counter carve type unit, mainly a counter carve type unit, so having plenty of them isn't really making much sense. It's just the perfect carve counter, you know. But yeah, that is it for infantry. Moving on to carve, aka my least favorite unit, but I use it anyway. Don't mind all the low tier carve that I have. Don't worry about it. Starting off with T9 carve, which is it not great, but it day and it does deal damage. So it's like having it is having it. Just have it for have its sake. Not much of it, but have it for have its sake. There's Archer Carve. What more there is to say about Archer Carve? There's a resource. There's a resource fighter. And well, the march very fast. And the best skill in my opinion is Random Shot. Random Shot is the best skill. Charge is the best skill. Because charges attack the range unit and Random Shot does deal damage to multiple units at a time. Don't ever level up resource battle. Makes no sense. Level it up last. The skill is complete garbage. It makes no sense unless if you're literally using Archer Carve in like a small group. Obviously, they deal more damage to melee troops when they have a smaller force. So if you have a smaller force of them, they will do more damage to the melee troops. But if the melee troops have a smaller force than them, they don't get the buff. Yeah, so that is that. Deadly March increase the marching speed and increase damage to Delphi, which makes no sense. Delphi already does not have a high defense and health, so it makes no sense. It makes no sense really focusing on Deadly March. Moving on to T10 Carve. T10 Carve is T10 Carve. Basically the best all rounder carve in the game. Not too expensive, not too cheap. It's good. The best skills being dodge and trample, because with trample it is attacking multiple units, and well, dodge it increases the chance to dodge an enemy attack, which is great for when dealing with infantry units, because god damn, they're running into an infantry unit, they're going to die. That is a fact. Moving on to Slaughter Cav, which quite literally the kind of hold up to that name, Slaughter Cav is Slaughter Cav. It kills a lot. It kills more than most Cav, except for T13 Cav and T12 Cav, but all of the different Cav, it kills more than them. So yeah, it holds up to that name. The best skill being advanced charge, dodge, and random shot. Critical hit, in my opinion, is like it 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 good, but it's just basically like critical percentage chance for cav units. The skill there, but somebody who just have that reduction in that stat can just reduce your critical chance. So it makes no sense, but it there. Moving on to Pegasus Knights, basically your runners. That is your runners. Have a lot of them. They're going to be a main cav unit. No matter how much, no matter how much you hate it or like it, it will be a main cav unit. Have plenty of them. It works. Fearless charge, fleet feet, advanced resource battle is garbage. Advanced random shot is perfect. But yeah, my opinion for the best skill fit is obviously random shot. Random shot dealing 127 damage, which I think on max it is deal 140% damage. Don't remember too much, but yeah, that is that is the best skill in my opinion. Obviously, fleet feet just increases marching speed and provides extra attack. Fearless charge, a bigger chance to attack enemy range troop, which is not too important because you'll see why in a second. But yeah, fearless charge is good, but you'll see why in a second. Why it don't really matter with fearless charge. Moving on to T13 Cav, which is your next main Cav unit. So having a lot of them it require you require to just have a large quantity of them. And same for the paladin. If you don't have much paladins, count yourself out as an infantry unit, a infantry castle. If you don't have much paladins, why even use infantry in the first place? But yeah, back to T13 Cav. T13 Cav is the ultimate range troop killer and in general the ultimate Cav troop. Because because the main because two main skills. Yeah, slaughter, which strikes the rear of the enemy from above, dealing a certain amount of damage to target and additional range units, which is amazing to take out range units. And you have Taunt. Taunt is a bleed effector unit, which helps with dealing damage to very defensive units. They also have the hurricane skill, which increases the dodge rate, which is amazing. The dodge rate in general, you would love to have dodge on a cav because if you do have dodge and run into pikemen and thing like that, they're not going to have a fun time. Let me tell you. And will increase damage against Delphire. Again, it don't really matter. Delphire does not have much health or defense, so the slightest hit they get, they can fall down like a paper tiger. But yeah, Griffinite. Yeah, basically a best cav unit. Basically the best cav unit in the game, no matter how you put it. As for T14 cav, in my opinion, not the greatest cav, but if you have them, you have them. There's stat reducers, in my opinion. Some people look at it different, others don't. So yes. Obviously they have one additional skill, which is Divine Trial. All T14 light units have it, as you could have seen before with Divine Trial for the Guardian of Farmant. But yeah, Divine Trial, it basically, if the number of enemy units is less than 2%, which whenever that opportunity happens, it happens. You don't ever get that to ever happen unless if you're on defense with all of your brightness rangers, which starting off with that, if you have to ever defend with Cav, a good amount of brightness ranges to have for like top a top tier player would be 7 million to 10 million brightness ranges. For a low tier player, just have like a million of them, half a million of them. You don't need much because you're not going to use them much. You'd actually be using Griffinites way more than brightness ranges. So yeah, Holy Flash increase the dodge chances, which increase the dodge chance, increase the dodge chance. Percentage wise, it I believe it very high. Holy Flash right there. It's by 40%. The Griffinite one I believe is actually higher. Yeah, 61%. But yeah, and then you have Holy Charge, which it deals 85% damage to 8 units at the enemy back row. Which, if you're fighting mainly range units, it will deal a lot of damage. If you're fighting infantry with pikemen in the mix, it will deal way more damage to pikemen, which is amazing. But even if you're not if a infantryman have a lot of defense, it's not really gonna matter. Near lethal shot, which lethal shot does just deal damage to range units, don't really matter. Who cares about lethal shot? And then cavalry awaken as the same for infantry awaken, but it's just for Cav, obviously. All T14 light units have the same awakening stats, so I might not go over it for all of them. So don't really mind me if I miss out one. But yes, on to the third unit, and basically my most favorite unit. You have archers. Archers, funny case with them, they went from being on the top to the bottom. I have never seen a faster rise and fall for a unit in my entire life, but it is what it is. So yeah, starting off with T9 archers, basically is basically your best low tier defenders. Your best low tier defenders if it's an archer, I mean. It is give it a boost during defense battles, due to the obviously because these crossbowmen or all crossbowmen have the same stat. Except for Delphi and Black Crow Hunters, obviously. No, earlier Delphi's and Black Crow Hunters, they don't have that defense stat. They also have Alert, which fires 10 shots at the beginning of the fight before the fight start, which depending on your strength, your archers might clear a lot of the army before the fight even begin, which is amazing when it comes to dealing with units on defense. Then you have aim, which greatly improves the range, which in my opinion it don't matter. Some might say different. I'm not a big archer user in the first place, so I cannot say whether or not if it makes a difference or not. But they start there, so say what. And then heavy attack, it increase the damage, which the damage already high, so yeah, it is what it is. On the T10 archers, which T10 archers, in my opinion, which most of you already know, is the best high tier killer in the game, and you would see why. The reason why that is the best high tier killer in the game is the puncture stat. It increased damage to all units except infantry by 11%, including damage to Supreme Legion. Meaning that if you come up against somebody who love to use high tier units, aka T13 to T14, you would deal a massive amount of damage to them. Except for infantry, but we'll get into why that is not a problem when it comes to archers. Yeah, double attack, which increase the attack speed and increase the damage to. Um, yeah, don't ask me how to pronounce. Don't ask me how to pronounce T13 Siege name. For the life of me, I can't pronounce it. I'll learn the pronunciation soon enough so I can start pronouncing it properly. But God Siege, I believe it is. Yeah, I'll put that in the past. Let put that one in the past. Have it and have focus. Having a 9% chance to deal extra damage when attacking. Obviously, these are my level. The max level will be different. The max level will obviously be higher. And have multiple shot. When hitting an enemy, have a 64% chance to deal continuous attacks and deal 21% damage to a minimum of 5 targets, which is amazing. Meaning that it could deal a lot of damage to up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on amount of targets. Moving on, you have the Raging Crossbowman, which in my opinion is the worst T11 unit in the game. Not only them stat bars does lie, it also in my opinion has a horrible survivability amongst archers. I don't know why. Crossbowmen usually have the highest survivability amongst archers, but the Raging Crossbowman just does not survive. The T4 archer have a better survivability than the Raging Crossbowman, but yeah, that's a topic for another day. As for the Raging Crossbowman, the best starters, rain and arrows, obviously all crossbowmen except for T12 and T14 Dark have it. T13, sorry, and T14 Dark, which I believe I said that before. Which before the battle of 10 shots, same thing as the regular, the same thing as the regular start for it. Renaris is the advanced stat, and alertness is the regular stat. They have advanced defense, which greatly increases the defensive damage. Don't let that fool you. They still suck. I don't know if it's just because archers suck more this time around than ever before, but I don't know. I just don't know. Then I have this one, diffuse shot. Diffuse shot. Every shot will attack 3 random units and increase extra damage towards that unit, which is meh. It mainly used for shield breaking. Mainly used for breaking shields of shield inventory. So yeah, it dies that. If they have a high defense, it will deal damage to a high defense unit. And then you have rampage, which increases crossbow attack and reduces receive damage, but yet still it takes the most damage in a fight. I don't know if this game was smoking, if they was smoking when making this unit, but whatever. It used to be a good unit, and then it just like ever since they just switched from archers being the main focus troop type for everybody to Cav being the main. I don't know if it's when they switch it up like that and they switch the whole meta of the game. I don't know if it's just that is what went on at the Raging Crossbowman, just dropping effectiveness. But whatever. Moving on to the best archer in the game. I don't care what nobody say. It's the best archer in the game. The Shura Archer. Remember when I said that puncture would not matter anyway. That puncture the Titan would not matter anyway for like Supreme Legion units, and dealing mass amounts of damage to them. It's because of advanced puncture. Advanced puncture deals high copious sprinkles sprinkles snorting amount inside joke sprinkles snorting amount sprinkles snorting amount of damage to to Supreme Legion and spare units this time because it don't deal damage to shield units, as you can see from the description. At 25% boost, obviously. And obviously the other stuff is amazing, like the flame arrow increase the speed of the attack and damage dealt to all siege engines, including Supreme Legion siege engine units, which is amazing. The critical strike, which increase the chance of activating when attacking, so it will increase the critical rate and advance consecutive attacks. Obviously, it's just the advanced version of the advanced version of the multi shot, the multiple hit, which that is that. Um, Moving on to T13 Archers, which is the Delfire. Amazing unit, horrible at dealing damage to certain units, but it just have a hate love relationship from me. So yeah, that is that. Aiming aiming and flammable is the best skills in my opinion. Spark also is a good skill. Multiple strike is like regular multiple strike, so no need to worry about that. Aiming does increase the attack and also increase the damage against siege, which it does have quite a few siege players in the game, so you want to actually have a few Delphires around if you want to be like a all-rounder castle. Flammable. Flammable does increase the chance to burn the target and deal damage based on your current attack. Last several rounds, obviously self-explanatory. Flammable, you know. So yeah. Then you have Spark, which when the belt of firebomb it will explode and hit the enemy and inflict AoE damage. Meaning that it will it don't have a chance, it will attack multiple units, mainly used for dealing with shield inventory. If you are dealing with shield inventory as an archer, use the Delfire. You will never regret using the Delfire against shield infantry. It deals a lot of damage to shield infantry. It weakens shield infantry so much to the point that even regular archers like bowmen, not crossbowmen, bowmen will be able to deal damage to them. And then when they have multiple strike, they can attack extra times, but they have a chance to attack extra times. I believe the percentage is like 50%, I believe. Could check that in here. Nah, matter of fact, never mind, it's very low. Yeah, moving on. um, T14 Archers. First up on the T14 Archers, we have the T14 Bright Archers, Justice Hunters. Justice Hunters, in my opinion, very useless. I could be wrong. Some people might find it useful, but in my opinion, is one of the most useless archers in the game. They have Divine Trial, and well, up for the skills that Piercing Shot, which increases the critical chance of the Justice Hunter. Weakening Effect, which increases the critical damage. Inverted Arrow, which is the best skill actually, which increases the chance to deal damage to random targets, and this damage dealing will cause continuous bleed damage if it is a critical hit, which the odds that you even get a critical hit in this game is it's so low. The game starts very messed up. No, I could be wrong. I don't really know into great detail how the critical system does work in the game, but to me, I find that the critical system in this game just whack. And I have the Archer Awakening, which is the same for every other Awakening. So yeah, that is that. Moving on to the T14 Archers, which is the Black Crow Hunters. The Black Crow Hunters is basically your second best crossbowman, apart from Delphi, but is your second best crossbowman. So yeah, they have the Evil Judgment skill, which you can see here. They have Embrace the Evil Shadow, which Embrace the Evil Shadow is it good, but it not really like the best that they have, you know. There's a certain chance to reduce the damage received when attacked by siege, which is that. Evil Shooter launch several additional attacks before battle. When an attacking, there's a chance that to attack additional targets and um increase crossbowmen damage, which will increase all the crossbowmen damage on the battlefield, which is amazing if you have a bunch of crossbowmen. Dark, the dark stat increase the defensive damage and damage to siege engines of the Black Crow Hunter. So basically, it is increase the damage that it is deal in defensive fights towards all units, and it have a bonus increased damage to siege engines. And Soul Snatching Arrow could probably make a few jokes, but this is not the app to do that one. Increase self attack power. When hitting the enemy, there's a chance to put them in a seriously wounded state, making them unable to be healed. So basically, it's like it's like we just call the hero. Oh god, brain fart moment. It's like the Soul Eater kill skill. It will basically just kill the unit instead of having them wounded. So if you want, you could basically use a bunch of Black Crow Hunters and you could kill a certain percentage of the enemy army. But yeah, that is it for archers. On to siege, my least knowledgeable unit, so I'm not gonna really talk about what good and what ain't good for siege. Yeah, I'm not gonna really talk about what is the best siege unit and what isn't the best siege unit, because I literally have next to no knowledge on siege. And from most what I understand about siege, the T13 is basically the only unit you want to use. But I will talk from my experience really. So first up here, the T9 siege, the good for just taking damage, which you realize with a lot of the rams in the game, the main purpose is just to take damage, and that is about it. For the T9 siege, the best stat is the offensive damage reduction. Obviously, it increased the defense by 112%. I believe the max percentage is 200. Don't quote me on that. I could be definitely wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm very much wrong. It's probably like 140 or something like that. This game was stingy in the stats back then, but yeah. Dark Crush, which inflicts 104 damage to 6 enemies nearby, which is it good. Well, we'll see about that. Load is load. Armoring. Sorry for the few cuts that you might see there. The background was getting a little noisy, so I cut it so you would not hear it. But yeah, back to armoring. Armoring does increase the defense and HP, which that is that. Nothing really too special. T10 catapults is a great cheap attacker for siege. The best skills in my opinion is the offensive damage, which is get offensive damage buff during offensive attacks. The boulder, which for each attack you have a 52% chance to attack 3 targets at a time and inflict 45% damage. Big inventory killer when it comes to that damage dealing part. Then you have accumulated power, which increases the fire range significantly and deal an extra 5% damage to paladin units, which if you have good defense for inventory, that little percentage don't matter much. And then you have power attack, which increase the attack by 13% and ignore the enemy's dodge odds by 30%, but reduces the attack speed. AKA, if you're a caveman, duly note you will get hit by you will get hit by the T10 catapult. Ain't no doubt about it. Long as the man have the stat max, which I don't, but if they have the stat max, they will hit you. Watch out for them. Fearless Artillery, I believe, have the same exact skill. So yeah. You have Bola, deals massive damage to 5 enemies at each attack and increase the X and increases X and can't talk today. And increases extra damage. Self-explanatory, advanced offensive damage. They get an increase in offensive attack and slightly increases the defensive attack, which that also self-explanatory. Piercing shot, increase the damage dealt towards infantry by 11. I believe the max is 30. Again, don't quote me on that. Definitely probably wrong. And I have power attack, which ignores the enemy dodge odds by 6.5%, but half the damage speed. So basically, re- it reduces the odds of them hitting the calf, but it also increases the firing speed. And for siege, that is actually very good. And in my honest experience, the fearless artillery actually does way more damage than almost all the other siege units in the game, believe it or not. Crazy to think about. And in my opinion, it's the best T11 unit in the game. But yeah, yeah. Then we have then we're moving on. Then moving on to the T12 Siege, which in my opinion isn't a bad unit, but it's just not a great unit. It have advanced armor, in which advanced armor does increase the defense and HP. Obviously, the advanced load is load. You could probably make a joke about load as well. Not the app for that again. Um, then you have advanced damage reduction, which increases the offensive damage reduction by that amount of percent and the defensive damage reduction, which is good. But again, with sometimes with all wrong units, they're not that one factor that the being an all wrong unit does always slow them down because they're not good at one thing. They're good at everything, but they're not amazing at it. And that's Savage Crush, which when attacking have a chance of 69.75% to deal that 73.47% damage to 5 melee targets, which is amazing when dealing with infantry, obviously, and well, spear cav. But in all, Phoenix Wings not too good. Moving on to the T13 Siege now, which that this one for starters, if he's a siege man, just use T13 Siege. Use it a lot. Don't stop using it. It's your best siege unit you'll ever have. So first up we have I swear the name does always kill me. But yeah, the the God Siege. I will learn how to pronounce it by the next time I see me. Right. As for God's greatest gift as siege player, skills, because that way it is God's greatest gift as siege player. It have brutal collision, which increases the attack, which also increases the damage against infantry, which obviously is amazing. Blade armor, which increases the defense and the HP significantly, which I could actually check the stats for that. I believe it's very high. I don't know how high it is. Blade armor. defense by 82% and HP by 22, which is amazing. It outsmash it. Tons of crash power can destroy any enemy in front of you. 51% chance to ignore. The 52% defense of our enemy are increased and typo and increase 28% chance of ignoring the enemy's dodge odds, which again carve players watch out for God's greatest gift as siege player. And then you have blasphemy. When attacking, you'll have a 44% chance to deal an extra 175% damage to multiple enemy melee units, which is obviously amazing. As you can see, that is the reason why I call it God's greatest gift as siege player. Moving on to God's greatest gift as siege player, if the mainly is defense, because this is what the war elephant is. You have Tusk. Again, I'll learn how to pronounce it next time when I see my bud. Yeah, you have the Tusk. Use the hard Tusk to rush the enemy unit, causes 13% damage to the enemy melee units in 2 random rows. Meaning that if a person have infantry, that is a shield infantry, which will be the frontline unit, rams, which will be the secondary frontline unit, cav, archer, and catapults, it will deal damage to the whole. It will deal damage to two unit types within that row. So let me see, it will deal damage to the infantry, and it will deal damage to the archer. But it will deal damage to the rest of them. It will deal the extra damage to the rest of them. So yeah, that's how that is work. Then you have golden armor. Golden armor is just it just increases the defense of a unit. So wearing golden armor, the war elephant have a 21% chance to sustain 7% damage for your other units. So basically, we'll reduce the damage of all other units in the whole entire army, and it will take on that damage, which you want to be careful as a siege player if you don't have much health, because if you don't have much health, then that war elephant can die very fast. Then you have invincible might. The war elephant uses invincible might to increase HP by 30%. It will also increase HP for all units for every 5,000 war elephants. It will increase it by 1. There's up to 20% chance. So I don't have the maths with me now, but I believe you need quite a few war elephants just to get that boost. That's why I call it God's greatest gift to a siege player on defense. War trample. War trample is just it increase. It makes the enemy unit dizzy and causes 21% continuous damage, which is just basically stun the enemy and also increase damage dealt to them. Moving on to T14 Siege. Sorry for the dogs in the background. They're playing. You can hear them right now. But yeah, moving on to T14 Siege. All in all, the Divine Punisher horrible. Just stated. I'm not this is just from my personal experience. I find the survivability rates very low for a siege unit, which is saying a lot because a lot of siege units in the game does have an incredible survivability. But yeah, for the first skill, Smite Storm, which chance to deal damage to 20 enemies, which is good. Settlement Strike, which increase the offensive damage, which is also good. Which you might say, but how come it's terrible? It's just the defense and the health not that great. But yeah, not have holy light armor. Increase Divine Punisher attack by that much percentage, has a 0.85 chance to cause immediate death to 1% of the enemy's one unit. Meaning that it would kill, it has a very small percentage to kill whatever it attack in the first row. And then Siege Awakening is Siege Awakening is very similar to all the other Awakenings, no difference there. Then moving on to T14 Dark Siege, which is God's greatest gift to a siege player if they didn't have enough God Siege. The Abyssal Brute. The Abyssal Brute is amazing at just dealing mass amounts of damage, but yet still having a very low survivability. Yeah, it is God's greatest gift to a siege player because if a siege player didn't have T13, because they have a high attack but low survivability rate compared to the T13. The Evil Judgment, all darks have it, went through this. They have embraced the Evil Shadow. There's a certain chance to reduce the damage received when attacked by infantry, which doesn't matter. Infantry already does not deal much damage to siege, so there's that. Evil Crush, when attacking, there's a chance to deal damage to multiple targets around and ignore the enemy's defense, which they could completely void the enemy defense and deal mass amounts of damage to them. They have Puncture, which increases the offensive damage reduction and damage to infantry of the Abyssal Brute, meaning that the Abyssal Brute will increase its own attack and defensive damage reduction when fighting infantry. So if you're using infantry and you come across Abyssal Brutes, try not to really fight Abyssal Brutes because it will buff the Abyssal Brutes to where you could hardly even kill them. You have Striker Fear. Increase self-attack power. When hitting the enemy, there's a chance to put them in fear state, making them unable to attack, which will stun the enemy. They won't be able to attack. But yeah, that is it for troops. That is it for the troops. In all in all, as for current trends and how the game looking like, it might be best to go with infantry in terms of if you want to fight the current trend, which is Cav. But if you want to think 50 steps ahead, go with Siege. But as of right now, Siege isn't really a great unit alongside with Archers. Archers is also not a great unit right now. And really and truly, Cav is the de facto ruler of the game at this current timing, but it's very expensive to use Cav. Yeah, it's very expensive to not use them, but do research and things like that. Is a spender's game. Cav is a spender's game, straight up. Infantry is basically the non-spenders game. If you're an infantry player, you're gonna have the greatest time of your life. And as for Archer and Siege, Archer is also a spender's game, has been for a long time. No spender would ever do that whole spending on Archers anymore because Archers now kinda suck. And Siege is definitely a spender's game because a lot of research is more towards the bottom of our tree rather than it being at the top. But yeah, that is basically it for everything. Next time Malissima might either go into formations of the troops or what heroes and what equipment you should be using. But yeah, that is it for now. That's it for now. That is pretty much it for the units and what they're going to and what they do and all these different things. So yeah, data beeps.